Hey everybody, this is Kurt Molly with my good friend Patty Dominguez over here. So I got to talk about Patty for a couple of minutes, just like I talk about everyone else. Patty's very, 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 very special to me for many, many, many different reasons. One of those reasons is many, many years ago, almost 9 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago at this point, we were sitting in a lobby in Stockton, California. And essentially what happens is we're sitting over by some elevators on some chairs, and Patty's telling me how she's working for these large companies and she's kind of making a change and thinking about doing different things. And we start getting in this conversation, and basically what unfolds is Patty starts telling me that the corporations she's working for, she's seeing some of the contracts and the bills and social media and what they're spending. And I'm like, just to be clear, you could do those own services for like $50. And she's like, whoa, what? And I kind of explained it to her, and Patty's really smart. She got it really quick. And she's like, well, Patty, you could be doing this for small businesses, medium businesses. Like, oh my goodness, let me show you some additional resources. Well, at the time, I had a program called Social Media in 7 Minutes. Nick and I had it. It was something that we created with Mike Dillard. We made tens of $20s at that. So you could go to a baseball game and spend all of it on beer and hot dogs before you even got in the park. But anyway, it's a whole other story. Well, what happened is one of the things that, in my opinion, that you should do, and all the experts say to do this, call your customers. So we would call our customers who bought Social Media in 7 Minutes, and we would say, hey, we're thinking about getting this group together where essentially we're going to teach people our course so you can go out and get social media clients as well. Well, one of those people is actually the next interview that I have coming up is Jeremy Howie. Jeremy is now on the board of small and medium businesses for Facebook. Like, there's a fancy title for it. Basically, he helps represent over 5 million advertisers that don't have regular representation. Well, through the grapevine and through the relationship that Patty and I built, I called Patty and said, Patty, you should do this thing that we're like setting up, the social media manager thing. Like, remember the conversation? It seems like you'd fit in. So Patty essentially got involved in a course that hadn't even been created yet. We would meet twice a week. We would start going over content. Patty's going to be doing this for people, by the way, as well, with her expertise. So when we talk about it, make sure that you do check out what Patty's doing. But essentially what would happen is we'd figure this out together. I'd teach, we'd have Q&A, I'd teach, we'd have Q&A, I'd teach, we'd have Q&A. And well, that group is now over 5 years old, almost 6 years old, I think, at this point. All of us have done some amazing things inside that group. There's not one person that has fallen off the wagon. They have all gone on to do some amazing things. So Patty has gone off to consult small businesses, medium businesses. She's getting some great consulting gigs with large sized businesses. So we asked Patty to come out to our live event, our 3-day event. So you're probably already seeing some of Patty's content inside of this summit, where she talks about not branding, positioning, especially how you position a cracker in 4 different ways. And if you're not positioning your own cracker 4 different ways, you have some issues. So Patty is brilliant. I love the way that her mind works. I tell her all the time how much I love her, how much I appreciate her, how amazing that she is. So Patty, you deserve a long, amazing introduction. Now I can't wait to start picking that amazing brain of yours here in just a moment. So thank you very much for doing this.
Kurt, thank you so much for being here. And it's been over 7 years that we've known each other. And I just want to acknowledge you because you helped me see the ability for me to literally replace my multiple 6-figure income the very first year. Toward the end of the year, all you said was head down, get to work. This is how you make it happen. No excuses. And that's exactly what I did. And it worked. So I literally will buy anything you got to sell. So I just wanted to let you know that, because I always get a return.
Well, we tell people this all the time. Hey, if you like these recordings here, you can't really purchase the recordings. The only way you can get access to the recordings if you sign up for the belt program. So Patty was at the live event where we really started to format the whole 10-week module that we have. So Patty has, like I said, a presentation in there that you must check out. You get access to in the belt, but if you're watching the summit, you're going to get access to that presentation for a very short amount of time. But the presentation was so good, I wanted to have Patty come on here so we can catch up on some things that are going on, so you can kind of dive a little bit more to get to know Patty. So Patty, let's talk about that transition for a little bit. So I tell everyone when we're doing the interview, there's 3 different types of people who are on the interview, right? Beginners who maybe just binge watching, who are just, they're looking for that spark, like when we had that conversation way back when, or the advanced to intermediate people, just to become more well-rounded on the belt.
Yeah.
or overall is experts who here's something that you say and they just might want to dive in deeper with you. And we'll have a link and talk about that here in just a couple of minutes. So let's talk about that transition. What was it for you? Because for you, you had a multiple six-figure income, you have a family, like you have responsible bills and stuff like that. You were making good money. Were you unhappy at your job? Did the economy change? What made you decide that you wanted to get out on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I was always like the good daughter. My whole background, my family's very blue collar from Central America, and their big dream for me was to go to college, to get an MBA, to get an office, a nice car, and a phone. That's literally what my dad said. So I'm like, okay, Dad, I'm going to do exactly that, you know? And what happened was I was in consulting right before 2008 when the market crashed. I was at the top of my game, so to speak, one of the head consultants there. And in that moment, as I was putting away all my tchotchkes in that cardboard box, as you're walking out, I felt like super pathetic because I'm like, oh my God, everything I thought that it was supposed to work, did it work? And by the way, I'm no different than the French fry guy at McDonald's. My job is not an asset. And so in that, like that big aha moment, I was like, okay, I got to find my way out. So long story short, it took me about 2 years. I did find another job in the meantime, but I always had in the back of my head, I never want to put my family's their health or anything like that in the hands of a company that could literally pull the rug right from under you. And it's happening right now again, right? I do have some corporate consulting that I do a same deal. Market go right, a big event happens, they shut off the faucet, and where you guys are cool as a cucumber, you see opportunity. So do I, by the way. Most people that are either focusing on their side hustle or doing these kind of things are like, oh, what am I going to do? And so it's just a matter of reframing those situations and realizing that there's an opportunity behind it. And so I was able to leave my job I worked one day in 2013 so I can get my big fat bonus. I turned down stock options. I turned down a promotion. People thought I was absolutely nuts. I used to be head of agency strategy relations for a global company. And then I ventured on my own and I met Kurt Molly. And that's where for a really long time, I was super resistant to the corporate identity that I had. I was like, I never want to like identify because I'm an entrepreneur. I make things happen. I create new money and the whole thing. Well, one of the things that I discovered just through this whole evolution of who I've really become as an entrepreneur is that there are a lot of good things that I learned in corporate over 18 years that I was there. And one of those things was the whole idea of positioning. My messaging has evolved as well because I used to say branding, and I talked about this at your October event, which was so amazing, by the way. And when you say branding, people get the notion that it's the visual identity, like it's your logo, it's your website and all these things. I'm like, no. And I knew I was missing the mark. Well, when I really went back and I had a consulting gig, I was doing some consulting in New Zealand, and we were working on a new introduction of a chocolate chip cookie with a really big global company. And I remember, I'm like, okay, I'm back in the game. I'm doing these things. And I'm like, good Lord, like the immense amount of rigor. And we were working with like VaynerMedia and all these big agencies and like, for a cookie, right? And that's what I talk about when I did your presentation. I'm like, the immense amount of rigor that happens when it comes to launching a cookie. And yet we don't do that for our own businesses as small business owners. So I'm like, there's an opportunity there. Nobody's talking about positioning in this way and just how absolutely important it is. It's essential. It is the difference between random acts of marketing that you're going to be doing or getting your stuff set up the right way. It's like, I always equate it to, it's like being an architect, right? Where you're like, here are the blueprints, general contractor, and then the general contractor comes and does what they need to do. That's positioning. Where most people are focusing on the curtains and what is the couch going to look like in their house and the paint. That's cool. And those are marketing tactics, but the essentials are all rooted in the importance of positioning, and it's got to be talked about. And so here I am talking about it.
That's really interesting because I don't think I've ever heard you say this before, and this is really, really good. So at the end of the day, with all of our experts, they pretty much all said the same thing. It all comes down to research. It's not just winging it and trying to figure it out. Yeah. Now, it's interesting from the real estate side of things, because I've been in real estate for many years, just for a comparable. Right. What happens is you have a great house with a great foundation made of brick. Now you decide to put in a pool. Pool's cool. Doesn't mean it's going to improve your value. Now you're going to paint the living room this really hot pink. You're going to put in these really great cabinets that are $7,000 that are just purple, green, orange, and this $6,000 oven and this $9,000 table next to the island. None of that stuff matters on the inside when they run comps. It makes you feel good. And basically what I hear Patty say is, it's like, hey, look, if you don't do the research and you ended up building an ugly baby inside the house that you think's really pretty without a good foundation, nothing's going to happen whatsoever. But you can change as long as you have a good foundation. But if you don't have a good foundation, like it's kind of like you're living in a tent. Like that's almost kind of what it sounds like. So
it really is. That's exactly right.
Let's talk about that for a second, because one of the things I talked about in the pre-interview, and if people watch the belt presentation, some people blame Facebook or other advertising for not working, but they have this ugly baby. They haven't researched the 4 positions of the cracker. So let's talk about this. When you start talking to someone, how do you know if they've actually done enough research on their branding, product, or offer before they're even ready to go to market?
Okay, 99% of people haven't done the due diligence just because they don't know what they don't know, right? And so they'll blame it on Facebook because of the ads, or I bought that course and it didn't work. Well, it's because you don't have your positioning straight away, like set up in the right way. And so one of the easiest ways that I can say that I can just kind of tell when people do an exploratory conversation with me, I ask them, what do you do? I'm a coach. Okay, you've basically commoditized yourself, right? By just saying a coach, I'm a life coach, I'm a chiropractor, I'm a this, I'm a that. You're commoditizing yourself. And I always alluded to, here, let me explain to you what positioning is. It's like a bowl of ice cream is the rational values ice cream, and you can pay $2 for a scoop of ice cream. The intrinsic value, the ooh-ah sensation, comes when you put the whipped cream, the nuts, the cherry, the sprinkles, you make it special, and that could be $20. Where is it that it's from $2 to $20? It's because of that specific thing, the special, all of these elements that elevate the equities around the way it looks or what you're saying and all these things. And that's the difference between just saying I'm a life coach, or me, I'm a business coach, or I'm a positioning expert. Totally different. Totally different.
So I'm going to jump around for a couple of minutes in here because there's a lot of different people that we can serve here that I know that you can really help out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a link to find out more about Patty, and it's the belt.live/Patty. So the belt.live/Patty. You'll see the link right here down on your screen multiple times throughout the presentation. Now, I want to talk about the 3 different types of people that we have on the call that I've mentioned before. Now, for beginners, what I just heard as an opportunity is where you said 99% of the people don't have their brand flushed out. So like one of the opportunities that I hear is if you're sitting at home kind of deciding, man, what is this branding thing? How can I help out businesses? Definitely check out the link. Again, you'll see it on your screen here in just a little bit. But actually, let's talk about that for a minute. What kind of opportunity is there right now for someone? And I'm not saying you have to buy Patty's course to do this, but if you buy a tool like Patty's course, I mean, what could a new person do in this branding thing to help other businesses? Like most people have this limiting self-belief. They don't think that they can help. Can you cover both of those 2 right there with branding and what they could charge?
Yes. Oh my God, so good. Okay, so basically the way that I've synthesized my whole background coming from the Fortune 50 experiences and everything that I learned in positioning, and both on a personal level, is positioning is comprised of 2 things. The first one is external, and then there's internal. So let's just kind of go that way. From an external standpoint, there's a framework, right? There's a blueprint for everything. And once you know that there's a formula to something, it's paint by numbers. It's no different than the belt, like your belt training, where just follow the numbers, paint by numbers, and you'll get the results, right? And so it's really important to understand within the external framework, there's key components in there that will help you with your positioning, such as personalization at scale. That is why when there's a new product introduction happening like a chocolate chip cookie, they want to know, is it for moms on the go? Is it for executives? Is it for little kids? Are they in grade school? It's the same freaking cookie. But the personalization is very unique depending on who they're speaking to. And this is what I mean, that most people don't take the time to understand the real nuances of their premium prospect, right? Ultimately, the point there is that you want people to see you as the one solution. Okay, because once you understand at the fundamental human need that there's like kind of that, what's it called? Joy and Pain. If you remember that song from Rob Bass, DJ Easy Rock, joy or pain, right? Why are you doing it? Is it for joy or pain? So understanding those elements, understanding competitors, there are indirect competitors and there are direct competitors. So there's so many elements to that, but that's all under that personalization at scale. Then there's another element called the ZAG. So there's a really cool author that I read this book years and years ago. It's called ZAG by Marty Neumeyer. And basically the essential here is when everybody's zigging, you want to zag. That's why when I said, what do you do? I'm a coach. Well, all you're doing is zigging, right? You want to zag, you want to make it super different. And so how you do that is why? Well, so that you can build intrinsic value, so that you can charge a higher premium, so that you're not playing the price war game with everybody else and saying, well, that's what the market will bear. So to answer your question, how do you start out if you're new? This is exactly where you should be starting. So you're actually in a really good place, right? If you're new. So that's first. Sorry, go ahead.
One of the interesting things that I'm learning a bunch of opportunities here, because there are a lot of ad agencies that we work with that they got to do some different pivoting. And a lot of people just, in a good economy, they can have a bad offer and throw some money at it and people aren't really paying attention. Now you really have to refine your offers. Like, this is a really great opportunity for people, again, just starting out. I mean, we talked with Chris Mercer at tracking, we talked with John Benson and artificial intelligence and copywriting, really diverse. Well, Let's roll this back. Let's talk about the three different people. Let's talk about those advanced people now, because I just kind of mentioned this a little bit. We've had a couple of other experts say this. A lot of people who used to have sloppy messages and used to kind of sort of make it work, they're going to have to really rethink things as this economy is changing. Can you talk about that for just a couple of minutes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it goes back to the ZAG just to make sure, and maybe for you, because you're intermediate, you understand the premise around that, your secret sauce, your formula, what have you. Then it's going, and again, maybe just a pulse check around your USP. Most people focus on a selling proposition, like you're talking about, where they're sloppy, but not necessarily unique being the operative word there, right? So maybe for you, it's a pulse check. And then understanding your brand promise. Inherently, it's a substantiation of that promise. Like, why should they believe you? Like, what are the proof points, right? And so the other side of it is what I call a checkmate move, where this is what the big brands do. So take for example, like when you look at what Budweiser did, their checkmate move is like, there's no corn syrup in beer. Well, you're like, wait a minute, there's corn syrup in beer? Well, if you're not talking about it, but you're the first one to talk about it, now you have a reason to be different. It's no different than Ford, for example. I thought it was so genius. One of the things that Wyden and Kennedy, the agency that they use, is that their slogan, their ethos is all around, like, built, right? America strong, like the whole built, like this whole American heritage. And so they're addressing the fact that people are in a moment of need. So they're building, like, we're in this together, right? And no payments for 6 months. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine and she's like, dude, that literally stopped me in my tracks. Like, it's not just a car commercial anymore. This is more of like a movement. It's speaking to that pain point, right? To where they're at. Like, don't stop thinking that you don't need a car. Well, here's a reason why you should buy a car. And we're doing this together, right? So it's saying like, wow, they're helping me. So that's their checkmate move, right? So just think about those elements. And if you're in an intermediate level, maybe it is just a pulse check for you, right? Do you have the right kind of ZAG? Are you addressing your unique selling proposition in a way that it's substantiated, right? Do you have a solid brand promise, the proof points, and then all of these elements, and of course your checkmate move, where all the classic brands do that extremely well. And I don't necessarily see that people do that in our solopreneur, entrepreneur arena.
So let's move to the so again, you'll see the link down here as well, but it's the belt.live/Patty. Patty. Patty, I guess that's what happens. This is great. So it makes it in the blooper reel. So let's talk about the experts, right? So there are some people that they want to refine their message, but there are very few clients that we work with, like you said, 4 different positions on a cookie. Is a kid going to eat it? Is a dog going to eat it? Are they going to work? Are they working out? So again, the economy is changing. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's be honest. 9/11 shut down businesses for about 2 weeks. We are far from over this, and it's already been 2 weeks. So we really got to start thinking through this. A lot of businesses are going to change, but here's the thing. A lot of brick and mortar have to rethink what they're doing online. So there's a lot of competition online. So there is a lot of gray area for opportunity. What would you say to one of these people who've had businesses that they're facing change? They might have to come online. Let's talk about positioning for some of those businesses. Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the same thing holds true, especially like I said, the one thing that I see a lot is the whole checkmate move not being used really well, where the bigger brands do use it. So it's all a matter of I I I coined this. I didn't coin the term, but I use this term in my presentation. It's called the moment of truth. Okay, and the moment of truth is another thing of like the reason to believe, right? So think about it this way: when we would do these new product introductions and they put them on the shelf, and you're looking at what the brand packaging is, right? Maybe it's like a brand that has been around forever, and you're just putting in new life, and then you're like, okay, what can we do different? And so taking a challenger position is one approach that you can take. Another thing is that moment of truth is like, what is it about the way that I'm telling my story now that is connecting to the consumer in that moment? Again, personalization at scale. So when they're reaching for that buy or they're hitting the buy button, it's speaking directly to what they're thinking about, right? The conversation that's happening in their head already. So again, for the advance, it's truly a pulse check. It's a checklist. Like, am I doing these things? You know, am I putting the right things in place so that I'm really different?
So we're about out of time, and there's a couple of other things I want to ask you because I could talk to you about this all day long. So, okay, so Patty, right now, again, depending on when people watch this recording, downtown Austin's boarded up. There, it's literally kind of like a hurricane's going to come through, and people don't know how long this is going to go on. So, what advice would you give to someone who may be in that transition? If you kind of look back 7 years ago, any advice that you'd give someone right now today on maybe some outlook in this transitional time?
Yeah, I think that there are basically two kinds of people, right? People who have the wait and see mentality, like, okay, we're just going to watch this training and like say, wait and see what happens. And that is where, okay, this has served you some entertainment. Go ahead and shut off the recording or whatever, because you're not going to do anything, right? So let's be honest. And then there's other people who literally see it as an opportunity, who can quickly be nimble. That's the advantage that we small business owners have, that we don't have to go through the red tape and bureaucracy of making things happen. You can literally be nimble. You can shift or pivot, which I've been hearing over and over and over again. How are we going to pivot? Well, here's exactly how you're going to pivot, is that recognizing that you can shift on a dime, have a new conversation that's relevant, of course, to that premium prospect that you're looking to connect with, right? And so you do have to change the connection point, the message, right? The message to market match has shifted. So the question becomes, how are you shifting with it? And that's and how quick are you going to do it? Because guess what? If you don't, you're going to get eaten alive. I mean, that's the God honest truth. You know?
Again, there are a lot. We just talked about this in the last call with someone. We're talking about licensing, even selling businesses, where a lot of businesses are mismanaged. Yes. So one person had just suggested is this round, meaning that this other hard economic timing is coming ahead. Some people are just like, I'm going to tap out, but it's not because they have bad businesses. They just had some bad management. So a refresh on the brand, a little bit more research on the avatar could be a prime opportunity. So last thing to wrap this whole thing up is, what about you, Patty? What are you working on right now? What are you refining as your skills right now as you're kind of sitting at home, kind of quarantined? Again, we don't know what 2020 is going to be like, but what are you doing to secure yourself? And well, actually, I know, but I'd like for you to tell everybody else.
Well, really, it's just a matter of exactly that. It's like changing with the time and just head down, get into action. It is no different than the conversation I had with Kurt back in 2013, where I was freaking out because I was like, I had quit my job and I had some money saved up. And then I said, I'm freaking out. I hope the money lasts, because I was operating with the employee mentality. And instead, he's like, listen, we entrepreneurs create new money. You just have to do this, and that. Follow the paint by numbers formula, like what Kurt has put together with Nick. I swear, every time, return on investment, guaranteed, same deal. Follow people that have been there and who know from a place of knowing, and not fluff or just like scare tactics. I mean, I know your heart, I know how you operate, and I just follow people that have been there and have those proof points. And that's who I follow. That's who I align with, right? People who are the real deal. Avoid the fluff, because there's a lot of it out there.
You're awesome. So the belt.live/Patty. Patty, I appreciate you. I love you. I'll tell Jeremy that you said hi too, because I've talked to him shortly. And by the way, I don't know where I'm going to schedule these. So I'm always talking about like, hey, the next person I'm going to talk to, they may be completely scheduled on different days. And Patty knows this about me. And other people are like, But what about if you make a mistake? Yeah, we put this together in 2 weeks so we can help a whole lot of people very quickly. So if you do see some of the mistakes that go through it, we're all just human. We all just want to help each other. And the biggest thing that I can focus on here, I know Patty agrees with me on, it is production over perfection.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it going. Patty, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Take care. All right, bye.